I looked around and I didn't see many representatives of women doing what I was doing with babies. And I began to have to adjust, what does success look like? Did I want my boss's job or my boss's boss's job? Or did I want to pivot?
Hello and welcome to season 3 of my podcast, now called The Empowered Woman. This season is all about matrescence, a term most of us will have never come across. I'm hoping to change that with these conversations and to show that motherhood looks different for everyone and that no one is doing it wrong. Matrescence is the developmental transition a woman goes through when she becomes a mother. It includes physical, hormonal, psychological, relational and identity changes, and it looks different for every woman. This week, I'm joined by award-winning podcast host Sinead O'Moore to talk about her transition to motherhood and how her definition of success shifted a number of times as she navigated matrescence. Sinead, thank you for joining me on The Empowered Woman. Tell me, first of all, what are your thoughts on matrescence and when did you first come across the word?
Well, thank you so much for inviting me on. I'm so thrilled to be here, and any chance to get stuck into these conversations, I welcome. Matrescence. Well, I was very fortunate that I worked for Every Mum. So I was head of their brand and content while I was pregnant with my babies. And in fact, I worked there for 2 years, even before I had my first baby. So I was very much immersed in the knowledge of motherhood, connecting to wonderful experts. And that is from the practical of weaning and sleep down to the psychological of what's happening in our bodies. Yeah. And it was such a privileged learning. You know, the success of my career was based on how much I knew about this. So that is very, very rare. And I do think, though, that even in the role, before I became a mother, I had no idea. I was doing the work and I was listening to the experts and we were publishing amazing content and we were seeing what was working on the website and we were saying, oh, more of this, less of that. And we were, going through the analytics and it was all very a job, a role, something I knew inside out. But the moment I became a mother, I was like, oh, this is it.
It landed.
This is the work. This is what it means. So I definitely went to the school of matrescence before I entered the physiological experience of matrescence. And I do think that it allowed me the permission to be super self-compassionate when I was going through it because I knew it. I anticipated it. Anytime I was having a good day or a bad day, I could kind of go back into that, that the education that I had in work to be like, that's that. And I'm the type of person that as soon as I can have a rationale for something, it eases in my soul. It kind of goes, okay, that is just what that is. You are not losing your mind. You are going through this transition. This is what you're shedding. This is what you're letting go of, but this is what you're gaining, but you're not there yet because you had a baby 20 days ago, So I was able to coach myself because of it, but I always knew that that was because of the work that I had done in my job. And I felt so sorry for the types of women who have come from backgrounds so far removed from the type of work I was doing at Every Mum and who crashed into matrescence without any anticipation, because trust me, it had never been brought up when I was going through any kind of maternity care.
Yeah.
It was never warned about. You were never prepared for it. It was very mechanical. Your body's going to do this, baby will arrive. And of course, that process is super and very important, and baby arriving was the goal. But even the postpartum kind of depression chats, they're not there. They're not where they need to be. And we're not explained to why we may be feeling what we're feeling.
Yeah.
And I think I think the more knowledge about what matrescence actually physically is and what's going on with our hormones, our mind, our bodies, our souls, we can understand ourselves.
Yeah.
And therefore not punish ourselves.
And that's one of the biggest reasons for doing this series is I only came across the word after I had my little boy and had never heard of it before. And I was really I suppose, shocked when it's likened to adolescence. And I'm like, well, I know about adolescence and I know about puberty. So why do I know about those things and I don't know about this? And then you kind of start to, line it up with menopause and perimenopause. Why didn't we know about them? Why aren't we taught all of these important things that are going to happen to us? And it's partly because the people who we look to as the ones in the know, they didn't know either because it had never been researched.
No, the research isn't done on it. Adolescence happens to both genders. There you go. Adolescence happens to both genders.
There's
so
your
we
answer.
learn about it.
Yeah.
There is research into it. It is a pivotal phase that both genders experience.
Yeah.
And for a very long time, the people holding the purse strings into the research around any sort of health, whether it be male or female, often had to have experiences of it to warrant a study into it.
Yeah.
The goal of maternity, if we're going to go way back, the goal of creating life in a patriarchal society is creating heirs.
Yeah.
Creating heirs to join the family, to join the war effort, more numbers equal safety. The more those women can pump out babies for those men, the safer they feel like the castle is.
Yeah.
And it didn't matter what happened to her. It didn't matter what happened to her in childbirth. It certainly didn't matter to her what happened afterwards. And I do think that there's a certain hangover of that. I'm not saying that we are still there by any stretch. No. Okay, we've certainly come an awful long way in maternity care and ensuring that a woman's life is protected throughout that journey. But I still think there is a huge chapter of the book missing as to what happens to her as a woman, as a being after the fact. Yeah. So we do check her and be like, is she healing? We are now seeing great lengths in terms of how is her pelvic health, how is her function. But a lot of that came in when we existed in a society where she also had to return to work. She had to continue to be a functioning member of our economics. So then it became, well, how's her body doing? Because we still need her to get up and about and get back earning that dollar. So that happened. But I still think there's a chapter missing as to actually what has happened to her, the person, and to really help her understand that transition. Because I believe on both of my children, there is certainly a death and a rebirth that comes. And I am not the woman I was going into either of those births. And I miss parts of her, but I also, now that I'm so far many years in, I wouldn't go back to her.
Yeah.
But I wish I knew what was happening while it was happening.
Tell me about Sinead before babies.
Who I was.
Yeah.
Oh gosh. Free, independent, very committed to my career, very committed to work as a symbol of my worth. It trumped my physical well-being on many occasions. I worked in an extremely fast-paced and exciting industry for most of my 20s and early 30s in advertising agencies, and the culture there was, you were on.
Yeah.
You were on it, but it was so fun and everyone was so inspiring because everybody was so creative and the best there was. So you wanted to be the best that you were.
Yeah.
So I was happy. We traveled. We had loads of way too many nights out. We were free. We had loads of disposable income. I grew up in that little tiny window where the economic crash had happened, but I was still too young for it to. I didn't have assets. I didn't lose anything.
Yeah.
And I wasn't. Everything the cost of everything came down while my salary was beginning to rise because I was on the journey up. So disposable income was great and we could do what we wanted. We were only talking about that recently. It was like, God, remember that year that we went to Bali for 2 months while we were still paying rent and came home and then went to a wedding in South Africa. And, those kind of things they don't exist. But I think at another level, I was probably very insecure. I definitely, your podcast on empowerment, I outsourced my empowerment. I
Yeah.
outsourced my empowerment to how I was doing in work, how I looked, um, how resilient I was, that I could be
Hmm.
out until 2 a.m. and still at the desk at, 8 a.m.
Yeah.
I outsourced my worth a lot. And that has been probably the biggest change in motherhood. Like, I feel like I could achieve absolutely nothing, but I still have done the most amazing work this week
Yeah.
because my children are well and
Yes.
they are here, and so that has reframed in my mind. But I do think I was very insecure. I was striving. I was looking for something. I was taking
Hmm.
steps. I was, what's next? What's next? What's next? Where are we going? Um, I pushed myself, but I was deeply insecure
Yeah.
and probably not always happy. I was I was searching for something that I didn't quite know. I just still don't have a name for it, but I was
Yeah.
definitely seeking something. Considering now the life I look back at having, I'm like, why was she not as happy as she should have been? Because all of that looks great from a distance.
Yeah. It's really interesting that you say that. And it's really hard to kind of, to pin that down. What is it? And why do human beings, when we have what we think we want, yet we're still striving
Yeah.
for more? And then a shift happens and we're like, what was I thinking? What was I doing? But is it just part of learning and becoming?
I think it is. I think it is representative of an era that I grew up in,
Hmm.
that we grew up in,
Yeah.
which was success equals career
Yeah.
and what you're contributing in the workforce. That,
Hmm.
we're primed for that, and there is merit in it. We're primed for it from going to school and do well and get your grades and go to college and get your degree and get into work and climb, climb, climb.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until I was I turned 30. We had bought our house, which now looking back, I recognize how fortunate, again, a
Mm.
time that I grew up on, that was possible. Um, we bought our house and I was 30. And I suppose, as I said, like my next, what's next, what's next, what's next? I was kind of going, well, babies are next. Now, not
Yeah.
immediately, but like that's the kind of next metric of success.
Hmm.
Um, and I looked around, I suppose, and I didn't see many representatives of women doing what I was doing with babies.
Yes.
And I began to have to adjust, what does success look like? Did I want my boss's job or my boss's 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 job? Or did I want to pivot? And I was very, very afraid of that.
Hmm.
Something that I learned upon really well was recognizing that, you can still want to climb the ladder, but it can be up against the wrong wall.
Yeah.
And for a long time, I think I was climbing that ladder, but it was definitely up against the wrong wall for the house that I wanted my life to live within.
Hmm.
And it took great courage to shift and move. And that's when I moved into Every Mum. And I remember I got great slack from my peers, moving into, like, what's this motherhood blog thing, versus the very serious work of the ad agency world at the time. Yeah, so it was a big career tower moment.
Yeah.
Um, and I still believe I was called. I the way it all happened, I was called into it because I believe I was there to prepare for this phase. Like, all of it happened in such wonderful, universal ways that I would never regret. Now, loads of parts of my life had to fall away in order to make that
Yeah.
happen.
Hmm.
Um, and but I think it set me up for the last few years, which was this work, creating this podcast, developing Every Mum, building that community, having people, I left the business 5 years ago, but I still think it set the tone for
Yeah.
what my passions would be within my career in motherhood. And it incredibly blended the two parts of my world of
Yeah.
who I was. So that is kind of what, yeah, it's brought me to here. And I do think I'm at another juncture. I don't know what it is yet, but I do think I'm at another juncture of what's next. Where's that next step?
Yeah. Yeah. That's really interesting that you mentioned that, because within matrescence there is that kind of shift in our sense of identity, and you were having a shift in identity before having your baby. So moving from the, as you put it, the serious ad agency into every mum. So talk to me then, like that shift in identity then versus then Sinead becomes a mum.
Hmm.
You know, what was that like?
It was amazing. The best days of my life.
Yeah.
And like again, I have spoken to hundreds of women through my work. And I have deep, deep, deep sincerity and empathy for women who don't share this experience. But
Mm-hmm.
my postpartum was glorious. I loved it.
Yeah.
I am at my happiest. I do believe I'm at my happiest while pregnant and postpartum. Um, don't really love the age 1 to 2, or even probably, I'd say even 6 months to 2.5. Once they start moving
Yeah.
and weaning and the mess and the constant cleaning and the constant hypervigilance of, are they going to throw themselves down a flight of stairs?
Mm-hmm.
All of that stuff, not a huge fan of. But the postpartum period, where many women experience the greatest psychological shift
Yeah.
in their feeling, was actually a real balm for me. I adored it. I struggled more on my first, obviously, because it's brand new, but also it was at a time where there was still an expectation that you were up and out. You
Yeah.
know, you were back at it. Um, the the knowledge of like, how do I go back to work? How am I going to find childcare? How am I going to hand my baby over?
Mm-hmm.
How am I going to be the mother that gets home at 7 o'clock?
Yeah.
How am I going to do those things? So that was very present. There was a huge moment. I was 6 weeks postpartum, and actually where I worked was bought out by a bigger media group, and so there was a lot of change coming down the road. So that obviously held on it. But the feeling of being a mother at home, other than having to relinquish like who career me was, like how
Mm-hmm.
feeling her fall away and kind of going, oh God, what do I that's uncomfortable. I don't know how to just be at home with a baby.
Yeah.
I didn't particularly like the boredom, um, the loneliness, the repetitive nature of every single day of my husband coming home and me being like, tell me news of the world. what, what's going on out there? So I did throw myself into an awful lot of classes and things like that. But actually, I think looking back, that drove up a bit of anxiety as well, because it was always like, oh, should I let her nap, or should I go to the class, and should I wake
Yeah.
her, and should we get into the car? And she was just, you know, and you're just, the internal system was kind of always on fire. And looking back, I'm like, oh my God, that class did not matter. You should have just climbed back into the bed while you had the chance. But I was still in that era of trying to, I've got this, you know,
Yeah.
I'm okay. I had my second in the depths of COVID.
Yeah.
And that wasn't there. You weren't to go anywhere. There was nothing on. There was nowhere to be.
Yeah. That's
I
it.
wasn't missing out on anything. Which I felt on my first. I always felt on my first like I was missing out on stuff. Like, oh, they're going on this trip or they're doing that or whatever, and I was stuck breastfeeding a baby at home. But on in the COVID one, I was like, oh, let's just sit down,
Yeah.
and you know, um, and I was back doing creative projects quite early in that pregnancy or in that postpartum period as well, because of the nature of COVID. Everybody was at home, so you could kind of just tip away at stuff at home.
Yeah.
Um, and that kept my mental sanity like in a much better shape. So I was softer with myself. There was no competition from the world expecting me to be a certain type of mother. I was allowed just be within my four walls. And I was able to do a lot of my creative projects kind of online without having to go anywhere. So I felt like maternity before was you were in or you were out. you were full-time in work or you were full-time maternity. On my second, because of the nature of COVID and other things happening, I was able to sort of be both of me at the same time and nurture both respects of me. And I think that that massively helped my mental well-being.
And that a lot of women would say that it's that when you become a mother, you feel like you lose a part of yourself, or you don't know who you are anymore because you have this big focus in your life now, and society tells you that it should be your main focus. But there are other parts of you that need nurturing and, need to come out to play as well. How did you balance that? For anybody listening who might be worried about, oh God, can I do that? Is that possible? How do you balance it? Or even, I don't even know if balance is the right word, because
Yeah, I don't
sometimes
think it's a
balance
balance.
isn't the right word.
No, I don't think I've ever balanced it.
Yeah.
And I don't think I've ever achieved it.
Hmm.
I, my eldest is 8, my youngest is 5.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not a brand new mother. Um, I've been doing this a while, and I still look in the mirror and go, who are you today?
What am I
Like,
doing?
what am I doing? Am I doing a good enough job in either respect? My bank account would say no, and sometimes my children's behavior would say no. So, like, what is your measure of success? And I
That's
suppose
it.
sometimes I do have to come back to that a lot. I'm a devil for feeling like I'm a failure. I have a huge amount of, if I'm not busy, my loudest voice is the one telling me I'm shit. Busyness is the antidote to my lack of self-worth. If I'm busy, I must be good. Um, and I'm self-employed, so you
Yeah.
are not busy 100% of the time, nor would my nervous system allow me to be.
Hmm.
So even when I build in breaks, I can't, sometimes it's detrimental. I can't actually hold what that does to my mental stability when all the voices start, being like, you're not doing enough. What's next? Where's the next, piece of client work? Sit down and relax. No, we've got to do this. It's a constant. I constantly battle the demons in my mind when it
Yeah.
comes to that. And I've paved, a self-employed career. I have a business called The Brand Story,
Mm.
and I do what I used to do for all my clients and my brands back in my old career, but I do it now for my independent clients so I can plug into their business and support them with their marketing and content communications. Um, and it's 4 years going, and it's brilliant. I never thought when I started on day one that we'd be here. But I am still the mum that 3 days a week is at the school gate at
Yeah.
2 o'clock. And that has meant that I've had to scale down my business. I I'm not a thriving CEO. I have a great business that pays the bills, and I love the clients that I work with. But I do also feel that pressure to be like, you should be growing. You should have a staff. You should have a team. Why didn't you, you had that connection with that big brand from years ago. You should have seen, I'm always pushing for that. But then there's also a part of the mother me going, but maybe that would risk my ability to be there at the school gates. And how would that work? Because on a Monday we've got gymnastics and all of these things come in that limit me, and I don't know whether I'm making any sense here, but I haven't found that. I'm
Yeah.
constantly asking myself. But I do think actually one of the lessons and learns of being so far into the game of motherhood, with my children now both being in school and stuff, is recognizing that almost every 6 months to a year, you're in a new chapter.
Hmm.
You're in a new phase. Your children have evolved. What they need from you is evolving. The nature of your work has evolved. Who you are has evolved.
Yeah.
And I believe very deeply, and I always ask myself, like, what's right for right now?
Yes. That's really clever. Yeah.
And as long as I'm feeling like, okay, the system that we have today works for today,
Yeah.
and the system that I might have to implement this time next year could look completely different, and always having the courage and the confidence, I suppose, to make those shifts and changes and to
Yeah.
roll with it. And I do think self-employment forces you to have to be very flexible with the systems that you create.
Yeah.
Um, yeah.
And did you find those transitions, and change in routines easy to flow with? Because I know myself, like when you're in one phase, it's like, oh yeah, I can do this. Oh, I like this now. I'm going for my
Mm.
coffee at this time. Nap time is this time. I have an hour to do this here. Great. But then next week it changes. And in the initial change, I'm like, oh, this is so annoying. Why can't it just be like it was? And it's all that letting go again and, relearning the flow. Like, how do you find that?
Yeah, it's a muscle. It's a muscle and you do get used to it.
Mm,
The more you practice it, you do get used to it. The more you recognize that the shift brought something good.
yeah.
I'm quite nostalgic.
Hmm.
Get me to pack away my children's clothes, expect a breakdown. Okay. Especially now that I know I'm not having more and my youngest is 5
Hmm.
and there's a big chapter of that is gone, you
Yeah.
know? Now she's still so little, but the littlest
Yeah.
years in my lifetime are over. And that's
Yeah.
really sad. It's really
Hmm.
sad. So I'm a bit of a clinger honor to like we only got rid of the cot bed literally last week. Like she hasn't been in it
Yeah.
for about a year and a half. But I couldn't part with it. Only that one of my best friends came home from Australia and she has a 3-year-old and they're setting up and they've not, they didn't fly with everything that they own and everything. So I was like, oh, we have a cot bed if you need it. And only that pushed me to get rid of it. Otherwise it'd be there till they were 18. Um, I'm not good at letting it go because it was just
Yeah.
such a happy time in my life.
Yeah.
Um, so I'm probably more of a clinger honor to the phase than frustrated by the change of the phase.
Hmm.
I get sad at the end of a phase
Yeah.
instead of frustrated at the beginning of a new phase.
Yeah.
I think my work as well has always been so chaotic that facing change is it's not a big issue. I'm quite pragmatic. I take change in their development like it's normal.
Yeah.
The fact that they're changing is positive. It's a good
Hmm.
thing. It's a good sign that they're developing the right direction. And it'll all get figured out. I never put too much
Exactly.
pressure on
Yeah.
myself to get things perfectly in motherhood. And I don't know whether that is because of all the pre-education I got in my career or I don't know. I just never I see them as little humans. They don't know what they're doing. I don't know what I'm doing.
Mhm.
I don't know how to have a almost 9-year-old. Well, she'll be 9 this summer.
Yeah.
I don't know how to raise an 8.5, 9-year-old. This is
Yeah.
my first time doing that. So just because I don't have an 18-month-old, like there's so much more to come when it comes to friendship dynamics, her own
Yeah.
confidence, her, confidence in school. There there's so I have to still learn. I have to still push myself to change. They are not staying the same. And me, the mother, has to constantly change with them. And that's really hard
Hmm.
because you sometimes feel like you're standing still.
Hmm.
I often feel like I'm standing still in life. Like that, when you do the nightly scroll and all of a sudden your years back when they're so little and you
Yeah.
identify how much growth they've done in the
Yeah.
years where you feel like your life has been paused. It's like I'm standing still to watch them go.
Yeah.
And my biggest fear in life is the day that they actually go.
Yeah.
Like that's the bit I dread.
It's a long way off, though.
It's not. I'm telling you, it's not. I keep telling you this. I literally gave birth to that 8-year-old yesterday.
Yeah.
That's how it feels. In 10 years, she'll be 18. Like I didn't believe the women that told me that it goes by so quickly. And
So
I know
fast.
it's the last thing that you want to hear when you are in the depths of it. And
Hmm.
trust me, I was in the depths. Okay. I didn't have a
Yeah.
child that slept for 3 years.
Oh,
Like
stop.
I'm
Yeah.
not sugarcoating the experience, but what I am saying is the phrase that it goes so quickly, you can't feel it when you're in it.
No.
And then all of a sudden, and I do think it's the dawning of school. Once they're in school, my mother always warned me of this. Once they're in school, it's gone. And I can testify to that. It
Yeah.
is gone and
Yeah.
going. But anyway, well, no, we still have loads of time left. But I'm just
You
saying
do.
the idea of change, there will come a day, and it's happening already. My eldest needs me less and less and less
Yeah.
and less and less. I am no longer the number one thing in her world.
Mm,
I'm not. Her friend groups are.
yeah.
Her social inclusion. They are what is important in her little head, not me anymore. And I am still the number one thing in my 5-year-olds, so that's okay. So I still have that. But she will age in the same trajectory, and that's the transition that I'm looking at. Going, I don't know how I'm going to get through that one.
Yeah. And there's nothing in life that can prepare you for it. You
No.
know, it's like it's ride it out and learn as you go.
Well, I am trying to reposition myself. I am beginning to acknowledge there is a time in the next like 2 to 3 years where I have to start reinvesting in me now to be at my best then.
Yeah.
Like I have to start allowing myself go, no, I need some hobbies again. I need to say yes to that girls trip.
Mm,
I need to say yes to going out. I need to have things that fill me up other than the love of my children, because I'm already getting the eye rolls, you know, and like they're going to not need me as much.
yeah.
They're going to
Yeah.
need me as much, but in very different ways, I suppose is what I'm trying
In
to
a
say.
different way. That's
And
it. Yeah.
in a different way. And I need to prepare for what I need to inject back into my fulfillment bank in
Hmm.
order for me to age into my 40s going, okay, I'm the woman now again. I'm me again. I need to find out who she is again so that her foundations can I can grow with their independence.
Yes. Yeah. It seems, Sinead, that you're very tuned in to the kind of ebb and flow of everything that comes with this matrescence transition in terms of, you know, what each phase and stage of your children's lives and your life, what they need. Would you agree with that? Did I get a right read on
They
that?
might they might disagree. They could disagree with that. Um, I don't know because I don't analyze it. I don't compare. I don't know what other mothers are feeling and thinking
Hmm.
in that realm.
Hmm.
I I do I do feel like I've structured my life in a way that has capped my career potential to a degree in some ways, for this period, for this chapter,
Hmm.
but has allowed me loads of time with my children. Like people
Yeah.
speak of mum guilt. I don't have it because in fact, I have career guilt. I have life guilt. I
Yeah.
have finance
Hmm.
guilt. I have,
Yeah.
you know, what am I doing in society guilt? Like I am at the beck and call of my 2 children, and have been for a certain number of years. Since COVID, since my second was born in COVID, I do kind of feel like I never really fully came out of the bubble.
Yeah.
Um, I was 7 weeks pregnant when we were sent home, and I have been home working within
Since.
within my house
Yeah.
ever since. Um, so we talk about what's happening with my children and as they're aging, and I look at that and I go, God, I was never lonely because they were so little. And I didn't have capacity to see other humans for
Hmm.
several years. I was all humaned out. They were
Yeah.
little, but I had so much physical and mental interaction. And even already, I'm like, oh my God, that's shifted. That is this year, that has really shifted. And, you know, maybe I should get a hot desk somewhere, or just
I know.
any
Yeah.
opportunity. If a client is like, can we meet? I'm like, yes, where? Um,
Yeah.
And I'm disappointed at myself for it taking so long. Like, I do think I fell into a bit of a comfort zone of being around for them, and it felt very comfortable. It felt very safe. It felt like what, and it is, and perhaps it's what has led to you saying that maybe I'm very in tune with them. But I did spend an enormous amount of time with them. I pretty much was like a stay-at-home mum who worked,
Mm-hmm.
whether that is at weekends or at night, to keep my income and all of their school hours. But if they
Yeah.
weren't in school, I was kind of with them. So yeah, maybe that is what has led to me being in tune with them. But I don't know. I don't know. I think that they might disagree.
Do you just cast your mind back? So you arrive home with the newborn, and we'll say specifically firstborn, so first time mum, first time matrescence experience. And you've just had the baby, the birth, whatever, processing all of that. You arrive home and you're like, there's a baby and I'm responsible for this baby. Was there a moment where you thought, who am I? Can I do this? Like, was there a profound identity shift for you? And was it comfortable, or how did it make you feel?
Um, Again, I had a really good birth,
Mm-hmm.
as births go, which are not pleasant. But I had a really good birth. And, 4 or 5 hours after she was born, I was up getting water for the ward. I was filling jugs. She was in her little cot. Her dad was on the bed. I was filling water for other women. My parents arrived and they found me in the corridor and they were like, what are you doing? I'm like, I'm great. I'm fine. And I know that that's not every person's experience. So I didn't feel any sort of, I wasn't healing myself postpartum. Okay. So I think that is a huge decider
Yeah.
in how those next few weeks go.
Mm-hmm.
I was very physically well. I checked myself out the next day. I was like, is she well? Am I well? Great. We're out of here. Good luck. Goodbye. I also was breastfeeding, and it was not easy. It was very painful in the beginning. It was not
Mm-hmm.
easy. But again, in respect to the curve of what breastfeeding can look like for a woman, I was very much in the this is going well, this is positive side of
Yeah.
things. Had those things not gone well, I think I would have fallen off a cliff, because they would have really challenged I'm able to do this, I'm capable of this, I'm good enough at this, I'm getting this
Mm-hmm.
right, which was very part of my psyche at the time.
Yeah.
That's what I'm good at this equals I'm good enough. And no matter what I was doing in that era, whether it was motherhood or work or friends or whatever, that was how the monkey was running in the brain. So I think if those things hadn't have worked, then I would have really challenged myself, but they did work. So when we came home with her, it was very gentle. It was very
Yeah.
gentle. And I, again, from my work of being deeply connected into experts at every mum, I had a wonderful network of women at the end of my phone that I could be like,
Yeah.
what is this? And they would offer me comforting advice of this is normal. And I'm like, oh, okay. And I think that's what's so important is this is normal. So I didn't get anxious. I didn't freak out in the middle of the night and, assume something was wrong. I was
Yeah.
very calm. I very much followed the kind of, a week in bed, or at least around the bed. I didn't rush back. We took 2 weeks kind of just chilling in the house. It was June. My first baby was June. Lovely long evenings. We just
Mm-hmm.
sit in the garden wrapped in blankets and
Yeah.
look at the sky. It was so lovely. It was so gentle. Um, and breastfeeding really gave me my purpose. I knew what to do because I was the solution to everything.
Yeah.
If she was tired, it was boob. If she was hungry,
Yeah.
it was boob. If she was thirsty, it was boob. If she was scared, it was boob. If she was sick, it was boob. I was where it was at.
Yeah.
And that gave me great grounding and purpose. I knew what to do, but now I had one tool, but I knew what to do. Now that 4, 5, 6 months in is where I had my crash. That is where
Okay.
I was completely depleted because I overserved I am the solution to it all.
Yeah.
Um, you know, we didn't pump so that my husband could do a night feed. Like I did every single feed.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I also, as I alluded to before, I started to perform like I was back in the world and I was capable of everything
Yeah.
while still exclusively breastfeeding. When really, if we're to go back and talk about the cave times, I should have been wrapped in a community of and a village of love for a
Yeah.
long time, having everything else done for me. But that's not the world we exist in. So breastfeeding centered me and allowed me to not have those I don't know what I'm doing demons.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I knew if she was on me, everything was okay.
Was okay.
It
Yeah.
was when she was off me, and like, so if you know if a friend or family very encouragingly would be like, you will mind, you go for a walk or you go do some shopping or whatever it was, I would, the palpitations of being away from
Yeah.
her,
Mm-hmm.
they were extreme.
Yeah.
I did not enjoy the feeling of being away from her, and I would often pretend like, so I had, I remember she was 19 days old and I went to say goodbye to a friend and she was leaving Ireland, and I was like, I can do this, I can do this, I can do this. And I'm on the M50 driving over to this pub, and I'm like shaking. I'm like,
Yeah.
and the feeling of sitting, she's only 19 days. And it was the first time that I had left an exclusive bottle. And it was probably one of the few times because it was so unsuccessful. But um, I was pretending to be the old version while existing in the new version. And
Yeah.
that didn't work. Once I kind of just resigned myself to, this is what I'm doing. This is what makes me happy, is being next to her. Um, then all of those feelings went away. And I think exclusively breastfeeding, for me anyway, not following a schedule, not following the rule book, not following what somebody wrote in 1946 that was telling me how to do this.
Yeah.
It was me and her. She told me what she needed, and I learned her language really quickly. And I think that helped my, I don't know what I'm doing. I
Yeah.
did. I just had to listen to her.
Just go back to when you said there about the crash that you had. Was it at 5 or 6, 4 or 5 months?
Yeah.
How did you replenish yourself? What did you do to come back from that, or did you come back from it?
Yeah, might be still there. Um, it was so I did a lot of research. At the time I thought it was, I didn't really delve into it, but when it happened again on my second at exactly the same time, almost exactly the same
Uh-huh.
week postpartum, it was like somebody had just plugged me out of the wall. You know, it was a full exhaustion, a
Yeah.
full, like I was absolutely flying it and then shut down.
Yeah.
And it happened on both of my children at both the same time. And that's when I kind of went, oh, there's a pattern here. This has happened twice. And that's when I started to look into and saw the term for the first time, postnatal depletion. And I was like, what is this fresh
Yeah.
hell that no one has told me about? And that
Yeah.
was something that was new to me. I'd never heard of postnatal depletion before. Very, very clear that I didn't have postnatal depression,
Uh-huh.
but I had something that was depressing me. Like
Yeah.
I was like suppressed, not
Yeah.
depressed.
Uh-huh.
My energy, my joy, my ability to feel a range of emotions, um, just the deep, deep, deep fatigue
Yeah.
where everything was an effort and you feel like you're in such a darkness that you don't think, how am I going to wake up tomorrow? Like I'm tired today for tomorrow.
Yeah.
And it was so quickly, and there was nothing had really changed to herald its arrival. But when I started looking into postnatal depletion and how it can happen at that time, and it's a shift in hormones
Uh-huh.
again, it's another
Yeah.
transition in hormones, particularly if you are feeding your baby still. A lot of women who finish up breastfeeding early on into their maternity it can often be diagnosed then in a kind of more, oh, it's the baby blues or, but it's
Yeah.
just because the shift, that hormonal shift happens earlier. The depletion phase, I think, I could be wrong, but I think from what I've read, and I think it was my body saying they're ready for some food, because it definitely was leading into that 6-month weaning. They're ready for some food. You don't have to be the source of 100% of this anymore.
Yeah.
Like, they
Yeah.
weren't on formula, so it was still me. And I definitely think it was my body telling me they are ready for you not to always be it.
Yeah.
And I'm a big believer in, we have been doing this for millennia. Like, we do this, but we have forgotten the language of it. We have
That's it.
forgotten to
Yeah.
listen to our
Yeah.
bodies and to
Our bodies
appreciate what it's
know.
telling us. Our
Mm-hmm.
bodies know. But
Yeah.
we turn to a book and we go, "What?"
Yeah.
It's like, just listen. And I do believe it was my body saying they're ready to try and start some taste. They're ready to start trying some food. And so when you say, what did I do? Once they were established on food and milk, like food and me, I was okay again.
Yeah.
Like, they obviously, them starting to sleep through the night was didn't kick in quite so quickly. And that took a time. But so it's just understanding again, I think, appreciating that it's a marathon, it's not a sprint. I think it was a
Yeah.
consequence of sprinting back out into the world, thinking I was fine. But then when the hormones crashed and the energy went with it, the false energy went with it, the adrenaline and the cortisol went with it, the stuff that was powering me, then it was like,
Yeah.
oh God, I actually have no natural resources in the tank.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it was a transition in time of like, okay, I need to start eating for me again. I need to start uh not exercising in a punishing way, but in a
No.
replenishing way. I need to start doing the things that bring me joy again. Like, I need to
Mm-hmm.
start going out in an evening, when they're like 5 months, 6 months. I need to start reclaiming little bits of joy for me
Yeah.
again. Now I couldn't on my second, again, very much in lockdown.
Yeah.
And I think that crash was, it was sadder maybe because I couldn't have access to those things. I felt
Okay.
I felt down for longer.
Yeah.
Um, because the world was down. Everyone was living in
Yeah.
fear. There
Yeah.
was no hope in sight. It was, but her crash happened in springtime. So I do think this is also, my first daughter's crash happened in like November, December, and
Mm-hmm.
that was bleak.
Yeah.
My second happened in spring, and I do think just the vitamin D and the return to some summertime
The
helped it
longer
again,
evenings.
the longer evenings. And again, that goes back to what we are. We are literal
Yeah.
humans in nature, and we go through the cycles, and it's
Yeah.
okay to hibernate and to double down on cozy when it's
That's
winter, and
it.
it's okay to
Yeah.
feel that freshness and energy to step back into spring and summer. And once we stop fighting against that and actually just allow our bodies to live in a bit of a rhythm, then I do think that we can reclaim some of our power much quicker. When you fight
Yeah.
against the natural being of what we are in this world, you are going to hit a brick wall eventually.
Yeah, I think that's really important. That's a really good point. And a lot of what you said has been really insightful about, going with changes and being in tune with the natural cycles of your body, the natural cycles of life, and also recognizing that you are actually so in tune with your baby and that they are in tune with you. I think it's such a big part of matrescence that as women, we've never been taught to trust and to be allowed to go with the
Mhm.
flow, that somebody else or something else always
Somebody
knows
knows better.
better.
Hmm.
Yeah. So if you were to describe, Sinead, just finally, if you were to describe matrescence to a woman who's just become a mother and maybe she feels a bit lost, um, what would you want her to know about this life-changing transition?
that hers is hers. It's
Yeah.
not mine. It's not yours. It's not her friend in the WhatsApp group or the woman she met at the baby massage class. Her matrescence is hers.
Mhm.
Nobody, and even between babies, nobody, she will never have this matrescence again.
Yeah.
And she has to tune into what it is that she needs today. And what fixes it this week may be the thing that breaks it next week. But what does she need today?
Yeah.
I think we've been taught for too long that there is an answer to everything.
Yeah.
And there's something that we can pick up in Boots that'll fix it. And there isn't. Her body has gone through a monumental physiological, hormonal, mental, emotional shift. And she has to put herself back together again. It's a jigsaw.
Yeah.
So at the minute she's scattered. She's scattered like a jigsaw. All the pieces are still there, but she gets to decide, you know, what little bit am I going to work on today? Am I going to work on this corner? Am I going to go around the sides and then fill in the middle? And that can take years.
Yeah.
It can take years. And then a toddler comes along and upends it, okay? And it's all scattered again. You know? Or a horrible boss, or a bad
Yeah.
relationship, or
Mhm.
a grief of a parent. Like,
Yeah.
something will come along and mess it up again. And that's okay, because you are not the measure of how quickly you can put yourself back together again.
No. That's all for this week. If you're enjoying these conversations and want to be part of a growing community that supports women, check out my newly launched online community, The Women's Collective. As part of the community, you'll get monthly coaching webinars, 3 weekly video prompts, and guest expert speakers. There's a link attached to this podcast.